Mrs. Gable. The warden, she insisted on that. Tittle didn't give me a key. She gave me a list of understandings. We don't use the word rules here, Elias, she said, her voice sounding like dry leaves skittering on pavement. We just have a way of being. The room was small. A twin bed, a desk, and a mirror with silvering that was peeling off the back like dead skin. I'm a logical guy. I like variables I can control. I unpacked my textbooks, aligned my pens, and told myself the cold draft was just poor insulation. Then the sun went down. In the city, darkness is never absolute. Here, it felt heavy, like a physical weight pressing against the window pane. Around 10 p.m., I heard the first sound. Thump. Drag. Thump. It was coming from the floor above. I checked my phone. No bars. I opened my door to peek into the hall. The lights in the hallway were off, but not dark. They were flickering in a rhythmic pulse, timed perfectly with my own heartbeat. I saw a girl. Another resident, standing at the end of the corridor. She was staring at a door with no number. Hey! I whispered. You're okay. She didn't turn. Don't count the steps, she muttered. If you count them, he knows where you're standing. She walked away, her footsteps making no sound at all. By the third day, the understandings started to reveal their sharper edges. I noticed the other residents, mostly guys my age and ever, looked at the mirrors after 8 o'clock p.m. They would shave or brush their teeth with their eyes firmly fixed on the faucets. I tried to be the rational one. Primera luz. Kit. Primera luz. In the reflection of the communal bathroom, the hallway behind me looked different. The wallpaper wasn't peeling. It was wet. Dark, viscous streaks ran down the floral patterns. But when I spun around, the walls were bone dry. I began to notice the smell. It wasn't just old house anymore. It was copper, the sharp, metallic tang of blood, masked heavily by bleach. I met Marcus in the dining hall. He was hunched over a bowl of gray oatmeal. He looked like he hadn't slept since the Nixon administration. Why is room 302 locked? I asked, trying to sound casual. Marcus stopped chewing. He didn't look up. It's not locked. It's occupied. By who? I haven't seen anyone go in or out. By the dead, Marcus whispered. He finally looked at me, and I realized his pupils were blown so wide his eyes looked like twin black holes. Did you sign the ledger at the front desk with the blue pen? Yeah, I said, my throat tightening. Mrs. Gable told me to. Good, he breathed, a terrifying relief washing over his face. As long as you're on the list, you're a guest. If you lose your spot, your inventory. The hostel began to feel like a living organism. At night, the walls didn't just creak, they sigue. I started waking up at 3:14 a.m. every night. Not las 3:13, not las 3:15. The light in my room would be on. I knew I'd turned it off. I'm meticulous. I have a routine. Off, click, bed. But there it would be, the harsh yellow bulb humming above me. One night I decided to stay awake. I sat in the chair facing the door, my back to the mirror. Primera. Qua. Itede. The silence was the worst part. It wasn't the absence of sound. It was the presence of a vacuum. Then the dragging started. Thump. Drag. It was right outside my door. I saw the shadow under the door frame. 2 feet long, distorted shadows that didn't match the human shape. They stayed there for an hour. I didn't breathe. I didn't move. I just watched those shadows. They didn't knock. They just waited. Eventually, the light in my room flickered. I felt a cold breeze on the back of my neck. I realized, with a jolt of pure, icy adrenaline, that the breeze wasn't coming from the window. It was coming from the mirror. Primera, turn. My reflection wasn't sitting in the chair. It was standing up, leaning against the glass from the other side. grinning. Its eyes were the same pitch-black voids I'd seen in Marcus. I couldn't stay. Logic dictated flight. I grabbed my bag and ran for the stairs. I reached the lobby, gasping. Mrs. Gable was sitting behind the mahogany desk, the ledger open. The grandfather clock in the corner had stopped, its pendulum frozen mid-swing, leaving so soon. Elias, Sea's kid. She wasn't looking at me. She was writing. You haven't finished your term. I don't care about the deposit, I stammered, reaching for the heavy front door. It wouldn't budge. There was no handle, just smooth, cold wood. The kindred house doesn't take deposits. Dear, she said, finally looking up. Her skin looked like parchment stretched over a skull. It takes memories. It takes the things you don't want to be anymore. You came here because you were lonely, because no one noticed you. Let me out.
I pounded on the door.
You are out, she said softly. She turned the ledger around. I looked down at the page. I saw my handwriting, but it wasn't a check-in log. It was a list of names, hundreds of them, dating back to the 1920s. Next to each name was a date of acquisition. I looked for my name. I found it at the bottom of the page. Elias Thorne, acquired October 14th. That was 3 weeks ago. I looked at my hands. They were pale, almost translucent. I reached out to touch the ledger, but my fingers passed through the paper-light smoke. The boy in room 204 is very lonely. Elias, Mrs. Gable said, dipping her pen back into the ink. The ink wasn't blue. It was dark, dried crimson. He's introverted, logical. He's been hearing footsteps. Why don't you go up and give him something to be afraid of? It's the only way we stay. Vivid, the realization hit me like a physical, a dragging sound. The shadows under the door. The reflection that didn't match. I wasn't the guest. I was the strange sound. I looked toward the stairs. A young man was coming down, clutching a suitcase, his eyes wide with a familiar, logical terror. He looked right at me, but his gaze went through me, fixing on the front door. Hello, he called out, his voice trembling. Is anyone there? I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell him to run, but as I opened my mouth, all that came out was a low, rattling whistle, the sound of a radiator with a punctured lung. I felt the house pulled at me, dragging me back toward the stairs. I started to walk. Thump. Drag. Thump. Primera wanda. If he'll count the steps, yope. It makes it so much easier to find him in the dark.